Is the image that sells dropshipping? A phone screen showing $100,000 in sales in a single month from a store the owner says they built in a weekend. The number is usually real. It is also almost entirely meaningless because that figure is revenue, the money that flowed through the store before the supplier, the ad platform, and the processor each took their cut. The number that matters is what was left after all of them were paid. So we pulled the receipts on dropshipping income, the gap between the dashboard everyone posts and the money that actually lands. Every dropshipping store runs on two numbers that the marketing deliberately blurs together. The first is gross revenue, total sales, top of the funnel, the figure on the screenshot. The second is net profit, what survives after the product cost. The shipping, the advertising, the platform fees, and the payment processing are all subtracted. The whole illusion lies in the distance between those two numbers, and that distance is enormous. Across a dataset of more than 1,200 real stores compiled by the analytics firm TrueProfit, the average gross margin sits around 65 to 70%, which sounds spectacular. But by the time every cost is paid, the net profit margin lands between 5 and 20%. So a store doing $100,000 in monthly revenue is not a person making $100,000. After costs, that store is realistically keeping somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000. The screenshot shows the river. The receipts show the cup you actually fill from it. Walk a single $50 order through the receipts, because this is where the money quietly evaporates. The customer pays $50. The product itself, sourced from an overseas supplier, costs about $20. So on paper the store keeps $30. A gross margin near 60%, which is the number that ends up in the highlight reel. But the order is not done taking. The advertising that found that customer is the largest line, and it is rising fast. Then the platform subscription, then the payment processor's 2 to 3%, then the inevitable refunds and the chargebacks from shipping that took 3 weeks. Run the realistic numbers through and that impressive 60% gross margin lands at a net margin closer to 20% or less. The same dataset confirms the floor. Across stores doing $10,000 in sales, the actual profit kept is around $1,500 to $2,000. The gross number was never the income. It was just the number before the bills. Now the single line that decides whether a store lives or dies: advertising. Dropshipping has almost no organic moat, no warehouse, no proprietary product, so it buys its customers one click at a time, mostly from Facebook and Google. And that cost has been climbing relentlessly. Across e-commerce, the cost to acquire a single customer has risen roughly 40% since 2023. On Facebook specifically, the cost to land one paying order now runs in the range of $20 to $40 depending on the category. Hold that against the store math. Experienced operators warn that if you are not clearing at least $30 of margin per sale after product and shipping, paid ads will eventually drag you into a loss. So picture the squeeze. The product gives you $30 of room. The ad to sell it costs you $25. The gap is your entire business. And every quarter, the platforms quietly widen the ad cost and narrow that gap. The product isn't the moat. The ad account is the whole company, and it is renting itself back to you at a rising rate. So how many stores actually clear that gap and keep clearing it? This is the receipt the success screenshots never show. Estimates converge from several independent directions, and they are brutal. Only about 1 to 5% of dropshipping stores ever reach consistent, sustained profitability, not one good month, but stable profit repeating over time. Put the other way, the failure rate sits somewhere between 70 and 90%, and a large share of new stores close inside their first year. On Shopify specifically, analysts estimate that only 5 to 10% of stores reach long-term profitability, and only 1 to 2% ever scale into 6 figures of genuine, kept profit. So the realistic outcome of opening a dropshipping store is not a lottery you might win. It is a coin that lands against you 8 or 9 times out of 10. And the few it favors are mostly people running it as a disciplined business, not a weekend hustle. And the gap between revenue and reality has been widening with time, which is why the old screenshots age so badly. Trace the trajectory. A few years ago, cheap and underpriced ad inventory meant a winning product could be bought for a few dollars per customer, and the screenshots from that era were, for a brief window, closer to honest. Then the acquisition cost climbed, roughly 40% across e-commerce since 2023, squeezing the very margin the model depends on. At the same time the market swelled, there are now on the order of 7.5 million dropshipping businesses worldwide, all bidding against each other for the same finite attention on the same two ad platforms. More sellers chasing the same clicks is, by definition, a rising price. The model still moves enormous gross volume. Dropshipped products account for hundreds of billions in sales. But the share of that volume that survives as net profit for the average operator has been thinning the whole way down. Here is the pattern hiding underneath all of it. The stores that do survive are not the ones with the best product. Almost everyone can source the same product from the same supplier directory. The survivors are the ones who treat the business as what it actually is: media buying with a storefront attached. Their real skill is not finding a product. It is acquiring a customer for less than that customer is worth, and then knowing the exact difference down to the dollar. The successful operators in the data are the ones who track net profit obsessively, who calculate the lifetime value of a buyer, who kill a losing ad within hours, and who reinvest only what the receipts say they actually earned. The ones who fail are, overwhelmingly, the ones who watched the gross revenue counter go up and assumed the net was following. The job was never selling the product. The job was arithmetic, performed honestly, every single day, on numbers most people would rather not look at. So what do the receipts actually say about dropshipping income? They say the model is real, the gross numbers are real, and a small, disciplined minority genuinely make a living from it. But the headline figure you were shown was the wrong number in almost every case. Gross revenue is the river. Net profit is the cup, and that cup holds 5 to 20 cents on the dollar after a rising ad cost takes the largest pour. Roughly 1 to 5% of stores ever fill it consistently, and the rest quietly close. Before you ever open a store, run the one test that separates the operators from the casualties. Take any income screenshot you are shown and ask the only question that matters: was that revenue or was that profit? If they cannot or will not show you the line after the ad spend, you are looking at the river and being sold the cup. That's what the receipts say.